Willkommen zurück, Austria Comic Con, der zweite Tag. Und hinter der Bühne wartet übrigens schon der Richard Rankin. Der ist jetzt quasi, wenn diese Bühne mein Land ist, dann ist er jetzt quasi ein... Danke. Aber machen wir aus dem Outlander einen Inländer, und zwar nicht den Rum. Ladies and Gentlemen, Richard Rankin! Richard, it's great that you're back. It's great that you hug me and not hit me, because I do have to explain something before we start the panel. Could you give me a show of hands? Who was here yesterday for the Saturday panel with Richard? Yes, I see two hands, so a lot of you lucky people have no idea what happened yesterday, but I still have to address it. We started the panel with me pestering Richard around 5 minutes about doing performance art, singing, dancing, playing the guitar, doing weird crap. And afterwards, a few people complained, and I noticed that you were like, what the hell is going on here? And I have to explain why I did this, and it's one of the funniest stories that ever happened to me at a Comic-Con. Someone from the Austria Comic Con crew approached me around 2 hours before we did the panel and said, straight to my face, that Richard wants to sing, dance, and do weird shit on stage. And I did my research, as I do always when I do these panels, and for Richard, I really found the info that he is one on behind the scenes, on set, who likes to sing, play the guitar, play sweet little tricks on other people, make people laugh. Just be a good sport. So I thought when I heard this, yes, this sounds exactly like Richard. So I just went ahead and did it. What I didn't know was that Richard and his assistant, they did talk about this, but they weren't serious. And someone else from the crew heard them talk about this, and your assistant, I think she was like, ha ha ha, yes, let's do that, let's sing and let's dance, but you need to tell Clemens to do it, ha 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 ha. And someone else heard that and thought, yes, I'm going to forward that joke and tell him. So she told me, but I thought she was being serious. So I did it. And he wasn't serious about it. So actually, it's the first time that both the actor and me on stage and your assistant got pranked at a Comic-Con on stage. So I find this very funny. Just a huge round of applause for this situation, for everyone involved, including you for being a good sport.
It was very funny. It was very funny. I was very confused. It was very funny. I'm like, why are you asking me to basically dance? Do you want to dance? Not really. Oh, you're serious? No, I'm good, thanks. Well, would you like to perform a scene? Well, what? No, not unless you're going to pay me. Jokes.
And I was always like, okay, you're an actor, so I thought like you're going to go the route of saying, no, I don't want to do that. No, I never do that. No, I would never. So just to prepare us.
I was this close. It's not that much beyond me, so, you know, there was always the possibility.
But okay, for today's panel, there is a mic right in the aisle, so if anyone one wants to ask a question, wenn irgendjemand im Publikum eine Frage stellen möchte, bitte einfach aufstehen, zum Mikro gehen, die nächste Frage gehört dann euch. Ansonsten, if no one asks questions, then, well, I will.
We can chat.
Yesterday we talked a lot about Outlander, we talked about The House of Him, and some other lower budget projects that you did, but I have 3 mini-series actually on my list that I would like to talk to you about, because sadly, I haven't seen, I have to be honest with you on this one, I haven't seen any of them because they were not released around here yet. So the Syndicate 13 and The Replacement have not aired anywhere I could find.
Okay.
So I only have very basic information, but they do all sound very interesting. But just in order to ease our way into the discussion, do you personally have a favorite one to talk about?
I don't think I have a favourite project to talk about. Hopefully, some of you will have seen some of the work that he's talking about. The Crimson Field was one of my first big jobs. That was maybe my sort of big break in TV, I think, because I was playing a principal part in a very big BBC medical drama which was set during the First World War. And I played an army surgeon. Captain Thomas Gillen was his name. And I learned a lot from that. I worked with some incredible actors. I got a lot of great experience from that. Working in that period environment was very beneficial to me. It was a great learning process. The amount of research that I had to do for it, or did do for it, a lot of it obviously voluntarily, but I got really into the medical world, the medical side of the world of 1918 wartime Britain, and I got so immersed in that, and that I think did a lot for me as an actor, and it was a great experience. I was working with people like Una Chaplin and Hermione Norris and Kevin Doyle, and I mean, and Suran Jones. The list is almost endless in terms of the quality of talent that was on that show. So I felt very supported, and they were a really great group of people. I got on really well with all of them, and I made a lot of friends on that show. So that, as an early experience, as a sort of a start to my TV career, I suppose. I'd done TV before that, but I think this was one of the sort of catalysts for me in television. But to have that opportunity so early on was amazing, because you don't always get that everything just clicks into place. And yeah, I think the Crimson Field was one of my most memorable experiences in television, and always will be.
Since you talked about the research that you put into the role, I know it might sound a little bit stupid, but I'll explain myself if you don't get the gist of the question. What part of acting is your personal favorite? Is it the research that you put into the role? Is it the script reading, the how you build the character in your head after reading the script? Or is it really the performance on set?
I think it's always the performance. It's the playing, it's the getting in front of the camera or getting on stage and just enjoying performing the character or the part. I think it's always the best part of it. But I'm always surprised by what researching into your character or into the period or the culture or the society or whatever it is to do with the time or the character or the piece that you are preparing, you always uncover some really fascinating information from the research that you do, and quite quickly too. So it kind of forces you into learning some new things and learning some new information about something you previously didn't. So the research is often essential. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can wing it and do next to none or none, and kind of get away with it. But it's always quite a valuable process, because you do always get quite a bit from it. But it's also, I don't think it's anyone's favourite part of preparing a performance. It's because it's something that oftentimes has to be done, and it can be quite tedious. So yeah, it's definitely not that. Performing is my favourite part, I think.
And you have performed a lot in the last 10 years. I found your first film role was in 2011 in the short film Dead Ringer, and according to the IMDb, you have made over 20 projects, including Outlander as just one project in the last 10 years. So you've been very, very busy.
Yeah.
At what point in your life have you thought to yourself or decided that you want to follow the path as an actor, that you want to star in films and TV shows?
Well, I've been acting since I graduated when I was 25. So since then, I mean, I had a bit of a hard time getting into the business, as I think a lot of actors do. It's not the easiest business to be in, and even when you're working regularly, it can still be quite a difficult business to negotiate and to keep level-headed in, which I think is quite an important quality to have. But yeah, I suppose since I was about 25, I mean, I'd wanted to be an actor since my kind of early 20s. I suppose I was quite late getting into it in the first place. I'd wanted to be a mountain of other things before that, so I could just never quite make up my mind what I wanted to do, even though it was always quite creatively oriented. But I could never quite make a set decision. But yeah, actually wanting to star in movies and star in TV has never really been a motivation. I've just wanted to do good work in whatever guise that may be, really, whether it be theatre, TV, or starring in TV or film or whatever. I don't necessarily need to be the starring role or the front man if it's a good team of people and it's good work.
Because originally I found out that you wanted to be an IT professional.
Yeah.
So that's like a polar opposite of acting. But do you still remember going way back, the very, very, very first acting experience you've ever had? So the first time you ever performed anything, and I remember from my past, it has to be some sort of school or kindergarten play or something weird, certainly.
I was always performing in some way or another. I was always trying to attract people's attention. I was always trying to be funny or be the centre of attention. One of the earliest memories, and I think I got into a lot of trouble for this, was at the place I used to stay in Glasgow when I was younger, when I was about 4. There was a little sort of balcony thing outside of the window, and the balcony looked onto a main street, a very busy street in Glasgow. And I only vaguely remember this, but I'm retold this story quite often. I managed to climb out of this window and onto this little balcony, completely naked, and would stand there dancing for people walking by on the street. So I can just imagine people going about their day, doing their shopping, and just looking up and seeing this like 4-year-old child dancing naked on this wee balcony. That was quite a funny memory. I think I was whisked in quite promptly and given into trouble, but how I got there or was ever allowed to get to that point, I don't know. But that's one of my earliest performances. Hopefully it doesn't exist on VHS anywhere.
Anyways, 4K wasn't invented back then, so
it's all good.
It's probably just blurry. But actually, we can both be very lucky that you didn't tell this story yesterday, or else the beginning of yesterday's panel could have gone completely different when I heard that's what he always does at panels and really wants
Oh, you want me to do the thing? Okay.
Okay. No, but speaking of your pastime activities, apart from acting or music, or photography, which we talked about yesterday in great detail, you're also kind of a gamer. You like to play video games, especially, you said your favorite game was Fallout 3. Is that still true?
Not necessarily. I think I don't know, we could sit here all day and talk about video games. Fallout 3 for a long time was my favorite game. I think because of the experience, it felt really kind of revolutionary, Fallout 3, when it came out, and in terms of RPGs, when I played that, when I put that game on for the first time, I was still sat there at 11 o'clock in the morning the next day playing it. Hadn't been to sleep, sat there with a large cup of coffee, still playing it, still trying to level up, figuring out that Pip-Boy, you know. But I think my favourite game of all time is probably the new Zelda on the Switch.
Oh.
I think, but you ask me tomorrow and my mind will change. I'll say something else entirely. I'll say World of Warcraft or something. Like, it just depends on how I'm feeling. But I love games, and there's a lot of them that I really love. But Fallout 3 is definitely up there as one of the best.
Please.
Hi.
Just a question. If you are very long in a role or on set, how long do you need to be the real Richard Rankin again?
You'll never see the real Richard Rankin. You'll never see him. You don't want to. I can't see because of the light, but are you dressed as Professor Snape?
Right?
Yeah?
Yeah, right.
Wow. Dressed as Professor Snape.
Yes.
Can only just barely make it out. Yeah. So how long do you have to spend with me before the real me comes out?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're never going to see it.
And what about
Never.
your pro-
A long time. A
Are
very,
you
very
really
long time.
Sure.
Like a couple years, maybe?
And the second question, I put as Snape. Have you ever been to a Comic-Con, and what do you think about the Austria Comic-Con?
I've never been to this Comic-Con. I've been to a few before in other places. But I love it here. The people are so friendly. The food's good, having a nice time. The organisers, the company here are amazing and very considerate and take their time to make sure that we're okay. And it's been very chill. This weekend's been lovely and chilled out. I wish I had more time to explore Austria and Wels. It seems like a nice town. So it's been great. I've been having a great time.
Thank you very much, and I enjoy your time.
Thank you.
Actually, I wanna expand on the question she asked, because when you're as an actor, you're on set for countless hours, and we've heard about the method actor approach, people just staying in character for a prolonged period of time. And then I think you are more the person who is you between takes and your role on camera. But if I imagine you switch, basically you switch characters like 50, 100, 200 times a day, how does that work? How do you basically keep up with yourself and your character? How do you keep it organized and not mix it up?
You're asking me a question which sounds simple, but essentially what you're wanting me to do is sum up my entire profession in one answer, because that is what being an actor is, right? And we train for 3 years to get to that point, to kind of harness and focus that. The truth is, it just depends on the scene, it depends on the project, it depends on what you're doing, it depends on what the emotional demands are of you, it depends on, because sometimes I do stay in character depending on if it's something that requires a really strong emotion, or to stay in a certain place so that you can give a consistent performance, because the more you do it, the more there tends to be diminishing returns, and coming in and out of the emotion of a scene or the character of a scene can be quite taxing, and I think you lose something from that. So it depends. If the scene is quite easy and it's quite trivial, quite domestic, quite pedestrian, then I'll come in and out of character all day long and not think anything of it, and just have a laugh in between takes, or have a coffee, or have a break, whatever. But if it's a very, very demanding or emotional scene, then you kind of change, you switch your focus, and you become more invested in it. Sometimes to the point, there are things I've done where I've tried to remain in that for like the duration of that shooting day, depending on what it is. So it's quite a complicated thing to try and convey to the audience, but that's my rough answer for you.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that was a brilliant summary. Okay. That was amazing and very on point and very focused. I totally understand. Let's go back to Outlander, and especially the time you started the show. Can you explain to us a little bit about when you first got involved with the project, when you first got word that you have the role? How much of the character that you've played and developed over multiple seasons has been written before by the writers and creators of the show, and how much of your interpretation of that character can we see on the screen, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, do you know what you mean? Obviously, every actor's going to bring their own self to a part, so you're going to see a lot of that person in the role one way or another. A lot of it's in the writing. You have to work within the constraints of the writing, and a lot of what you see and think of Roger is the way that he's been written over the seasons. But obviously it's based on books, this show. It's a series of books by Diana Gabaldon, and it's kind of predetermined there. So I'd read a few of the books to get an idea of the character, a sense of what I thought it was about. And you can kind of take your own interpretation from that. But then, like I say, when you get the scripts for the show itself, you kind of have to follow those sort of guidelines as to his path through the story, which can sometimes be quite limiting, and sometimes it can be quite nice to have that sort of very clear direction for the character.
Yesterday we talked about your favorite scene, the most intense scenes that you ever shot for Outlander. But do you still remember the first day on set, the first scene, the first that you filmed?
Yeah, you always remember your first day, don't you? Your first day of anything. It's like the first day of school on Outlander. I remember very clearly the scene that we shot, and it was a scene with Sophie, who plays Brianna, Katrina, who plays Claire, and I, and it was shot, and it was in the 1960s, and Claire was going back through the stones, and it was season 2, episode 13, and I think it was horrendously early in the morning, but we had a really cool period car. I had all my brand new period Roger outfit, which was all brand new to me, and I was meeting everyone on the crew really for the first time, so it was very exciting, and it was a lot of fun to shoot.
Speaking of things that are a lot of fun, hopefully you have fun at Austria Comic Con. Hopefully you also have fun on stage here at the panels. Hopefully you had fun, because that's all the fun we have time for today. Ladies and gentlemen, give a huge round of applause to the amazing Richard Rankin.
Thank you, and thanks for coming along. Really appreciate it. Thank you.